I love basketball, but one thing I don't like are lies and false narratives, because usually whether it's by the media or by NBA fans, we tend to treat the NBA like it's a story, and I understand that because storylines lead for good television. But sometimes we get to the point where we take things too far and we let the story eclipse what's actually true. And a lot of narratives that I am going to address in this video are a result of people thinking like that. But before we get started with this video, if you're not subscribed to the channel, what are you doing? Hit that subscribe button and press that bell for post notifications to stay up to date with the latest content on this channel. And as far as this specific video is concerned, make sure you drop a like to show support to the algorithm. But without further ado, let's start off with the first lie this season, and that is that Draymond Green is the most important player on the Golden State Warriors. Now, when I say this, I truly understand that Draymond Green is a very important player. He has immense value on the defensive end, can guard multiple positions, and being 6'6", having to play power forward and sometimes the small ball center, it can be very taxing on the average person. But Draymond is no average guy because he can do it and do it at an elite level. And even offensively, though he's no elite offensive player, he's still a really good passer, which creates shots for other teammates. And because of his efforts not only this year but in years past in the Warriors' heyday, it's led to the league being changed with small ball effectiveness. But unfortunately, I believe that Draymond's importance to the Golden State Warriors is starting to get overstated, especially this season. As earlier on in the year, with Draymond Green having a back issue and missing a significant amount of games, the Warriors did struggle, especially against teams that they should have beaten. And it led to people starting this debate and narrative that, hey, Draymond Green is not their best player, but he's their most important player. And I am of the belief that if you're the most important player, you're essentially the best player, because that's usually how that works. If you can't win games without one specific player as compared to other guys on the team, then that guy might be more important and the best player on the team, because how good of a player you are is determined on how many games you can lead your team to victory in, or at least have impact on that win. And yes, Draymond is impactful towards winning with his defense and passing, but Draymond Green's impact, at least being at an all-star level, is dependent on what is around him. If he does not have shot creators or shooters around him, then his passing is just there for no reason, if we're being quite honest with you. And we all know offensively he can be a liability because he's not spacing the floor or even creating his own shot in any way, shape, or form. I mean, even as a free throw shooter, Draymond Green has regressed over the last couple of seasons also. Draymond's flaws are well hidden whenever he has certain players to cover them up, and when those players are there with him, he looks like a way better player than he actually is. And the players I'm usually referring to are Steph Curry. In the past he had Klay Thompson and also Kevin Durant, and even now he has players like Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins to help him also. But while we're on the topic of defensive players, that leads into another lie, and that's this thing that Rudy Gobert is the reason for the Jazz consistent failures, especially come postseason time. And I believe that this is just a symptom of people not liking Rudy Gobert and just not watching Jazz games, or at least not understanding what they're seeing on the screen, because I don't think enough people truly understand that Rudy Gobert is their best player and their most important player. Like, you could take Donovan Mitchell off that team and they could still make the playoffs, or at least be competitive in that 8th to 10th spot as a play-in team. But meanwhile, if you remove Rudy Gobert off that team, they are instantly a lottery team. And if you don't believe me, just look at the numbers. When Donovan Mitchell went out last year towards the ending of the season, the Jazz without him were still able to go 13-6. Meanwhile, this season without Rudy Gobert, the Jazz are 7-8. And in that time span, they went from being one of the best defensive teams in the league with Gobert to being one of the worst defensive teams of all time without Gobert. Gobert truly single-handedly damn near carries that defense. When he's on the court, they have a 108 defensive rating, and when he's off, it spikes to a 114.6. That essentially means when Gobert is on the court, they have a top 5 defense, and when he's off the court, they have a bottom 3 defense. So now that we've understood that he carries that defense, why would you blame him for why they can't stop anybody come postseason time and they get exposed by consistently good perimeter-oriented teams? I mean, if we're being honest, Donovan Mitchell deserves more blame for why they go out in the playoffs than Rudy Gobert ever did, because Donovan Mitchell actually has the tools to be a good defender and has not improved defensively since his rookie or sophomore season. He has not been that good of a defender. The Then you throw in Mike Conley, who's also below 6'3" at the point guard position. You have an undersized backcourt, and then around those two you have other wings that are not defensively oriented whatsoever, like Bogdanovich or Jordan Clarkson, and they don't help matters at all. And as I say all this, it takes me back to a quote that I remember Marcus Smart saying a couple of months ago, where he said, and I quote, "Yeah, they're still the same team, ain't nothing changed. Rudy protects all of them. None of them can really defend, just funnel it to him, and it's tough. He's a great player and he does a great job of, anticipation, staying down, being real solid, so you know who they are." And as much as I disagree with Marcus Morris on a lot of things, that is 1000% correct. If you watch a lot of Jazz games, they literally allow players to just blow right by them because they know they have Rudy Gobert in the paint. And that may work in the regular season where you're facing random teams on any given night, but in the playoffs where you have to beat the same team 4 different times in a 7-game series, it's a whole different ball game that teams can easily game plan around. And we've seen that happen time in and time out with this Utah Jazz team in the past. But Mustard though, he can't guard the perimeter guys though, right? Like he can't switch on the perimeter players like Draymond can. He ain't Ben Simmons. He ain't Giannis. Come on, man. This is the era where you gotta switch, man. Like he can't do that shit at all, bruh. Come on now. You know that, Mustard. Well, you're wrong yet again. That is another myth about Rudy Gobert. Now, I'm not saying Gobert is Giannis or he's Ben Simmons, that he can just switch on the perimeter players and stay in front of them and keep up with them like at an elite level. But this thing that Gobert just gets cooked every single time he's on the perimeter is not true. It clearly is just a myth that is there because people like to watch highlights instead of actual games. If you look at the screen right now, you can see a list of perimeter players and even some players in the paint that are noteworthy that he's done a really good job on this year. And if you watch the games, these numbers shouldn't be that surprising to you because Gobert is pretty long, and of course he can get put on the occasional highlight reel because that happens to damn near any big in the league. But it just seems like Gobert is targeted the most more than others, and that's just unfair, and I'm here to dispel that lie in the NBA community. Now let's move on to the next lie about this season, and that is the MVP race. Now if I'm being quite honest, this is one of the worst things that I think I've seen this season, and it's this insertion of whoever is playing well at the time or for so and so stretch, they automatically have to be considered for MVP. I mean, we're currently seeing it right now with Devin Booker, and I addressed this on my second channel, but I believe that that's just so dumb that we do this every single season. I mean, don't get me wrong, Devin Booker is having a great year, and in a lot of seasons, especially considering how great the Suns have been this year and been head and shoulders above the league, if we're being quite honest, he would win the MVP. But this is not one of those seasons, and the same thing applies to guys like DeMar DeRozan or Ja Morant that have had amazing stretches in this season. But unfortunately, stretches are not all that you need to win the MVP award. You need to consistently be doing it from beginning till end of the season, or at least damn near close. And there are only 3 people that fit that criteria: Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. They've been head and shoulders above the league offensively, and defensively, Giannis is the best defender in the league, you could argue, this season. And it's crazy to me how people argue against somebody like a Nikola Jokic, for example, and say, oh, he's a 6th seed, so he's automatically removed from the conversation. But these same people not only ignore the fact that he's just 3 games removed from the Sixers and Bucks win total, but whenever Steph Curry was doing what he was doing at the ending of the season, I was hearing some of those same people saying, hey, Steph should win the MVP. You gotta be consistent, and if you can't do that, then your opinion on this topic really shouldn't matter. The MVP is a regular season award, and the regular season is 82 games. It's not what you did in your last 10, it's not what you did post All-Star break, it's what you've done from game 1 till game 82. And from game 1 till right now, Giannis, Embiid, and Nikola Jokic have clearly been the 3 best players in basketball. But moving on to our final lie of this season, and I have to say it pains me, but I have to go with this Ja Morant hype. As much as I like Ja Morant, I think that he's kind of getting a little bit overrated by a lot of people, especially ones in the media. I've heard people say that Ja Morant has had a better season season than guys like Steph Curry or Trae Young or even Luka Doncic, which has led to even some saying he's the best point guard in the league, and I believe that is so inaccurate. Ja Morant is a fantastic player, but he is not the playmaker that Steph Curry, Trae Young, or Luka Doncic is. He's not the shooter that either of them are either. And on the defensive side of the ball, I would say he's better than Trae Young, but he's not better than Luka or Steph Curry, especially this year that those two have played the best defense of their career so far. And people are going to look at his field goal percentage and just ignore every other efficiency stat. He is literally behind Steph and Trae Young in 3-point percentage, mid-range shooting, free throw percentage, true shooting percentage. I mean, how can you just ignore all those other stats of efficiency? And then as far as the team success, the team is still successful when Ja doesn't play. I'm not saying that they're better without Ja Morant, but Ja Morant's team can still win games when he's not on the court. You can't say that for Steph Curry, you can't say that for Trae Young, and you can't say that for Luka either. And the whole thing with Ja Morant being in the MVP conversation was just so dumb. I'm sorry, he was nowhere near that convo if we're being real with ourselves. As I mentioned earlier, he wasn't sniffing what Giannis, Jokic, or Embiid were doing, so please, let's stop overrating Ja Morant, because I don't think he's an overrated player, I just think he was getting way too much hype. But hey, that concludes this video. If you disagree, let me know down below in the comment section. Follow me on social media. The links for my Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch are down below in the description box. This is your boy Young Mustard signing out. You guys stay safe and have a blessed day. Peace.